Greetings, accordion players all over the planet. Okay, I'm back. Before I start this video and get into the chords, I want to say a couple things, a couple disclaimers and apologies. First of all, I made a lot of mistakes on my previous accordion videos, but I put the corrections in the description box or I added a comment to show how I spoke incorrectly. I just don't have any means of editing my videos, so there will be boo-boos, but I'll try to note the corrections in the description box or in the comment area so that you don't think I'm a complete idiot. And the other thing is, I don't know if I mentioned, but this 5-finger bass system, Stradella bass system, was developed by my music teacher, Clarence Edgar Roberts. And it's pretty cool that I'm only now showing or introducing something that was given to me by a man 56 years ago. That's kind of a neat thing. I'm glad that the idea doesn't die out and just fall by the wayside. I'm going to try to keep it alive with these videos. I'm 64 now, almost 64, so to pass on this wonderful stuff from Mr. Roberts is it's kind of an honor. The other thing is, not mentioned in my earlier videos, is my hand is just about an average size. It's not too small, it's not too big, it's just an average size hand. So you see, if I can do it with an average size hand, then you also can do it and can play this stuff. It's just not that difficult. You have to spend a little time on it and then you'll get it. And then the other thing is, it's important, is I wanted to mention that I was greatly inspired by videos made by a professional accordion player and producer named David Lang. He has videos on YouTube, and he was a great inspiration, and he emailed me and did nice things. But it's very inspiring, and I noticed, and I wanted to mention this, is that David actually has a very high quality accordion. And when you hear things on my accordion, you're hearing things through an accordion that has fair quality reeds. They're actually good at best. I wouldn't even say good, but I'd say fair quality reeds. So when you hear this stuff and you incorporate these chords and ideas into your music using an accordion with really good quality reeds, especially handmade reeds, then you're going to get a really pretty sound. You're going to get a really nice sound. And it'll be better than what you hear on these crappy videos that I make. So the quality of reeds is very, very important. Okay, I think that's it. We get into the chords that I wanted to talk about. I want to look at something that might seem really insignificant to the professional, but for the beginner, it might prove to be useful, and it might help in the long run. For example, today we wanted to talk about a couple dominant chords. And the most basic one that you might be familiar with is the C7, C dominant 7. So you play the C bass, and then the C7th button. Beginners are probably familiar with this. Now when you hit those two buttons, the chords that are sounded, the chords that you'll hear, I don't know if you can see this, there's 3 tones you're going to hear: C, E, and B flat. The G is not sounded. In the traditional position, the C bass and the C7 chord, there's no 5th sounded. You're not going to hear the 5th. Like if you look at the right hand over here, you'd hear the E, B flat, and C, or B flat, E, and C in this position. That's all you're going to hear. And that's just a simple thing. And like I said, to a professional, somebody who really knows the accordion, they might say, well, that's just, anybody knows that, who cares? Well, for the beginner, it's good to know, because we can move forward now. If you play the C bass and the G diminished button. Now you get the C7, the C dominant 7, with all four tones being sounded. You might not be able to tell with the ear, but it's true. And these are the tones that you hear. You're going to hear C, E, G, and B flat by playing the C bass button and the G diminished button. In other words, as I tried to stress with some of the seventh chords in my previous videos, is when you play the seventh my way, the 5-finger way with the thumb, it's possible to get all four tones of the chord. Alright? C bass, G diminished button, you're getting all four tones are sounded. That's a C7 or C dominant 7. Now it's getting a little nice because you're getting into some neater stuff. Now you can go back to your C7 with the C bass and the C7th button, but you use your ring finger for the bass, your pointer for the 7th button, and your index for the G minor button. Play them all together. When you do that, you get a C dominant 9. That's a dominant chord, but it's a dominant 9 because why? You're getting that D there. The tones are C, E, G, B flat, and D. This is the 9th tone here, the D. All right? You get this in the left hand. And on the right hand, if you can include the C in the bass over there, you get this. That's a really sweet sound. That's a really nice sound. And it's also inspirational. Like if you're just practicing this, the C dominant 9 on the left hand, this is not difficult. Anybody can do this. Just tap the keys. That was an F major 9. But anyway, so that's the C dominant 9. And that's a real sweet, pretty thing. Now, there's a thing in the music theory world that musicians are aware of, and it's called suspension tones. I don't use that term in my book, and if I'm explaining it to somebody, I don't refer to them as suspension tones. I don't do it personally. But it's there, and it's been around for 100 years or more. Oh my gosh, for several hundred. Now, ordinarily, in the world of traditional music theory, what normal people consider, you have suspension tones. Let's say in the key of C, for example, the 9th tone would resolve to the tonic. Excuse me, to the octave. Or the 7th tone, especially the minor 7th, in other words, that's the one in your dominant chord, would resolve to the tonic, excuse me, the octave. The 4th tone would resolve to the 3rd, and the 2nd tone would resolve to the tonic. In other words, your 7th would resolve to the octave, and then your 9th would resolve to the octave. And your 4th would resolve to the 3rd. That's a little dissonant, but over here I'm playing the traditional C7. There's no 5th in there, so sticking this 4th in there, even as gnarly as it sounds, you can get away with it. Though I don't do it that way. I'm just showing you this. And then the second interval, resolves to tonic. So that's the suspension thing in a nutshell. I'm not going to go into detail because I'm not an educated man. I don't have degrees, I don't have diplomas, I don't have any of that stuff. All I have is years of looking into things, into theory, trying to find things that somebody might have missed, and trying to clean it up. That's the whole purpose of my book, was to clean it up. I cleaned up all the scales, most of them. I cleaned up the chords big time, and even invented a new clef system, which nobody's going to use. So anyway, the point is, we're looking at the dominant setup here. C7, dominant. The fifth is not sounded because of the button. These buttons here, the top row, counterbass row, and the bass row, all right, those are just single tones. Well, ordinarily. Actually, most of these are a tone sounded at different octaves. I won't get into that in this video. But these two rows, counterbass and bass row, you generally get one tone, even if it's duplicated at a different octave. Now these other buttons, the major row, the minor row, the seventh row, and the diminished row, are designed such that three tones will sound when you press any one of these buttons in any one of these rows. Three tones will sound. That's because this bass mechanism, they call it a bass machine, is designed that way. And it's a beautiful thing. I don't know if it's done on purpose, but it's a wonderful thing that when whoever designed this omitted the fifth in the seventh row and the diminished row. With the fifth is omitted, and it's a beautiful thing because you can do this five-finger system because of that. Okay, moving along quickly. Let's say you have a traditional chord. They would call it a C7 with a suspended 4. In other words, the fourth is included. What this means is, in actuality, this C7 would be a C and a G and a C. In other words, the octave, it would be a C, a G, but instead of the third, there's a 4 in that chord. And then they say suspended because they're assuming that you know that the 4 will resolve to the 3. Hear that? This is my system here. This is how I do it in my book. It's different, but it's far more accurate and far more concise. But just ignore that for now. Point is, we're going to look at a chord here that resolves from this Alright? Now you say, well, what does that have to do with dominant chords in the left hand? Well, I'll show you. You can't simply play this, these three tones, the F, B flat, and C. You can't play that exact structure over here in this side. So what do? We cheat. We move to the C dominant 9 with the suspended 4. And this is how it would look with my system in my book. But we're going to ignore that for now. To play that beautiful sound, we have to consider the C dominant 9. That's probably backwards on your thing there. Yeah, it's probably backwards on the video. I don't know. I don't know how you're seeing this, but the point is, it's a C dominant 9 with a suspended 4. This we can play on the accordion. And you do that by playing the C bass and the B flat major button. C bass, B flat major button. And then you transition to the C and the G diminished button, or you can play the C with the traditional 7th button. So we're doing this. C dominant 9, C C bass, B flat major button. And we're progressing or transitioning to the C7. It's this, we get this. Now that's very sweet. Check this out. It's very, very sweet. So even with only fair quality reeds in here, you can get a sweet sound with kind of a crappy accordion. So I wanted to show you that. And I think that's it for this video. I know the video ran long. I apologize again. And if I said something stupid or incorrectly, I'll note it down below. But I think we got the basic dominants that can be used nicely in your music. C7 traditional, then the C bass with the G diminished button. That way you get your 4 tones, all 4 tones in there. Then the C dominant 9, that's the C7 traditional, plus you throw in the G minor. Then the little transition thing, the C9 with the suspended 4 to the C7. So you see that? So after that 7th, you continue playing the song, whatever song it might be. You know, blah, blah, blah. You just... That's your little transition, a little progression. Okay, I'm going to wrap it up because I went way long. I'm so sorry. And I hope there weren't a lot of hideous boo-boos. So until we see you again, that's pretty much it. I hope you learned something. Later.